Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking an Enablement Uncanned look at something really transformative for go-to-market teams, specifically how they prove their impact and refine their strategy. We're talking about Enablement Analytics AI. So if you've ever felt just buried under complex dashboards or maybe waiting weeks for data insight sounds familiar, then yeah, this deep dive is definitely for you. We're going to unpack why smart teams are genuinely ditching those old ways and how this new AI-powered approach actually works to give you real answers, actionable answers, like instantly.
Yeah, and what's always struck me is how persistent this core problem has been for enablement leaders. It's this constant pressure, right? You need to prove impact to the execs like yesterday, but you also want to improve strategy in real time. And usually you don't have a big data science team just waiting around. So this deep dive, I think, will really shine a light on how this new class of AI tools specifically targets those critical pain points.
That proving impact yesterday feeling. Yeah, that definitely hits home for a lot of folks, I bet. Okay, let's get into it. Our sources are highlighting that you no longer need, and I love this phrase, a PhD in dashboards, or that direct line to an, let's be honest, overworked data science team.
Right.
Instead, these AI assistants are getting smart enough to help sales, enablement, marketing leaders, everyone really, get actual answers from their analytics. And without needing super deep technical skills, imagine just, asking direct questions about content performance, training impact, and getting insights right away, skipping those 3-week waits for custom reports. But thinking about someone used to the old ways, what's the biggest mindset shift needed to really use this natural language querying thing?
That's a really good question because it is a mindset shift. The key, and probably why this is really taking off now, is that natural language querying. Instead of battling with SQL or trying to wrestle pivot tables into submission.
Pivot tables.
Exactly. You just ask questions. In plain English, it takes your business question and turns it into data insights, literally in seconds. So the shift is moving from, okay, how do I build this report, to what's the business problem I need to solve right now? You're basically having a conversation with your data, not just pulling levers. Think of it like your personal universal translator, maybe. But for business data, it just removes that whole technical barrier.
The universal translator for data, I like that. It sounds almost, revolutionary. So what does this really mean in practice? The articles we looked at define an Enablement Analytics AI tool as using AI to interpret, and this is key, your sales, content, and training data all together through natural conversation. It's not just dumping raw numbers on you. It's about the AI understanding what you mean, right? The intent behind the question.
Precisely. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, the magic really happens in 3 steps. First, you've got the natural language input. You just ask, which content helps our enterprise reps close deals the fastest? Simple question. Second, the AI processing kicks in. The system goes to work analyzing usage patterns, win rates, deal velocity, content engagement across all your connected data sources. And then third, boom, instant insights. Hey, enterprise reps using that ROI calculator demo in their final presentations, they close deals 23% faster. What's really crucial here, though, is that these AI assistants understand context, and they can start to discern correlation from actual causation.
Okay, let's pause there for a sec, because correlation from causation, we hear that phrase a lot, but what does it really mean in this specific context? How does the AI help with that?
Excellent point. It means the AI doesn't just say, hey, these 2 things happen together. Reps who use pitch deck X also close more deals. That's correlation. It tries to go deeper. To understand if using pitch deck X actually causes the win rate to go up, isolating that specific factor from maybe a dozen other things happening in those deals, that's a distinction that, frankly, humans often struggle to make consistently, especially when you're looking at thousands of interactions all happening at once. Plus, these systems, the good ones anyway, are conversational and explainable. You can ask follow-up questions. You can ask how it knows something. And the AI should actually show its work, citing the data points it used. It's not just a black box. Think of it more like a co-explorer for your data.
Co-explorer. That's incredible. It almost sounds a bit too good to be true for teams who feel like they're drowning in data right now.
Yeah.
It does make you wonder, though, how did these AI assistants actually build that understanding of context and figure out correlation versus causation? I mean, even experienced human analysts find that really challenging. Is it just sheer computing power?
It's more than just brute force computation, yeah. They're typically trained on enormous amounts of sales and marketing data. Anonymized, of course. So they learn the patterns that often indicate causality versus just, things happening at the same time by chance. They use pretty advanced statistical models to test hypotheses, much like a data scientist would. But they do it at a scale and speed that, frankly, no human team could ever match. And they're constantly learning from the new data coming in, refining their understanding of how different variables interact.
Fascinating. Okay, so let's dive into some specific areas where this tech really makes teams smarter. One area that jumps out immediately is content. How does this AI approach totally change how we understand content effectiveness for, say, marketing and enablement teams?
Oh, absolutely. Content is a huge one. Think about your typical content library. You might have hundreds, maybe thousands of assets, right? Beautiful brochures, detailed white papers, slick presentations your marketing team spent months on. But the reality, reps probably only use a handful, maybe a dozen, consistently. The million-dollar question has always been, which ones actually connect to closed-won deals? And traditionally, answering that, it meant exporting reports from like 5 different systems, your CRM, your CMS, maybe sales engagement, and then spending hours, maybe days, trying to stitch it all together manually in Excel. It's a logistical nightmare.
Oh, I've definitely seen that, where the most beautifully designed expensive asset just gathers digital dust, while some quick cheat sheet a top rep threw together becomes the secret weapon everyone wants. It really shows how much we miss without this kind of insight.
Exactly. And with AI, you can just ask, right, which content is most used by my top performing reps in the last 60 days? And the AI can instantly surface those patterns, like that gorgeous brochure. Lots of downloads maybe, but doesn't show up in winning deals. But that scrappy internal one-pager, turns out it shows up in 78% of enterprise closes. Boom. It can even find content gaps. It can tell you when prospects are searching for something specific, maybe in a digital sales room, like how does your XYZ integration work? And they get 0 results. That's a 0-hit search flag right there. Huge insight. It also helps you track the whole content journey, what gets open, what gets ignored, what actually leads to the next meeting. The real insight, the strategic shift, is moving from guessing which content works to actually knowing and then prescribing content strategies based on solid data tied to wins. That's how enablement really starts driving revenue.
And just to give people a taste of the precision here, some example prompts the source mentioned were things like, show me content that appears in 80% or more of deals over $100. Or even, what's the difference in content usage between our won deals and our lost deals, specifically for the North American sales team last quarter? Getting really granular.
Exactly. Granularity and context.
Okay, so moving on to the next big area, sales and buyer engagement. This is obviously critical for enablement and RevOps teams.
Yeah.
You mentioned buyer behavior. Sometimes it feels like a crime scene, right? Full of clues if you just knew where to look. So if you ask the AI, what sales materials were shared in our closed-won deals last quarter? It can show patterns, maybe the surprising impact of a certain pricing deck or specific case studies. But how deep can it go? Is it just about which documents were shared?
Oh, it gets much more granular than just the document level. That's what's really fascinating here. These AI systems can track things like which slides within a presentation get the most attention from a prospect, or which specific sections of a proposal are highlighted or commented on, even down to the questions prospects asked about the shared content, maybe within a digital sales room platform. So this isn't just about, slightly better follow-ups. It's about potentially re-engineering your sales playbooks based on proven buyer behavior, turning those individual success stories into repeatable wins for the whole team. It transforms follow-ups from something generic, like just checking in, to something highly specific. Hey, I noticed you spent extra time on our security framework slide. Great point. Want me to connect you with our CSO to go deeper? It also helps you spot those behavioral patterns that strongly predict deal outcomes, positive or negative, and turn them into actual plays for the team.
That is really powerful. So you could ask things like, which piece of content generates the most follow-up questions from prospects after we send the initial demo recording? Or maybe, show me the buyer engagement patterns for deals over $250 that actually closed versus those that stalled out.
Precisely. Those kinds of comparative questions are where the gold often lies.
Okay, and the third area, sales learning and training analytics. Super crucial for enablement and L&D teams. We know so many teams struggle to draw that direct line between L&D activities and real business outcomes. But the pressure to do exactly that, it's just growing and growing. So imagine just asking which reps completed the new product training and hit their quota within 90 days. How does AI help validate the ROI of training?
Yeah, this gets right to the heart of ROI, doesn't it? AI analytics can track and correlate things like Training completion rates, sure, but also competency development, maybe skill application observed in call recordings. And then connect all that to actual sales performance metrics, win rates, deal size, velocity. You might discover, for example, that this really expensive external training program you invested in, zero correlation with improved performance. Ouch. But maybe those informal peer coaching sessions or a specific internal workshop on ejection handling, they drive measurable results in deal velocity or average contract value. This lets you focus your efforts and your budget where they truly make a difference. You can even start tailoring training formats. Maybe some reps respond better to video, others to simulations. The data can show you. The strategic nugget here is really moving from just tracking activity, who clicked complete on a course, to measuring bottom line impact. That lets you optimize your L&D spend with surgical precision.
Makes sense. So prompts here could be like, show me the training completion rate for reps who hit quota versus those who didn't in Q2. Or even, what's the ROI of our sales methodology certification program broken down by region and specifically tied to changes in average deal size post-certification?
Exactly. Those are the kinds of questions that lead to real strategic decisions.
Okay, so we've seen the power in these specific areas: content, engagement, training. But let's zoom out again. How does this AI fundamentally change the day-to-day, the whole rhythm for an enablement team? And maybe what are some of the initial challenges or pitfalls teams face when they first start adopting these tools beyond just, the tech setup?
That's a really important question because it does change things. First off, the most obvious one. You are no longer spending your life building reports or waiting in line for analysts. Our sources pointed out a stat, something like 46% of organizations don't really use data for insights because they don't see it as strategic, often just because it's too hard to get to.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
With AI, you ask questions as they pop into your head. Maybe you're in a sales meeting, someone wonders if that new pricing deck is landing well. Instead of saying, I'll get back to you in 2 weeks, you can potentially get an answer in seconds. Now, a pitfall. Expecting it to be a magic wand, it's not. You still need to ask good questions. You still need to understand your business context. It's a tool, a powerful one, but still a tool that needs a smart operator.
Right. And second, you mentioned this earlier, it bridges that sales experience gap. A lot of enablement pros, and it's no fault of their own, maybe haven't closed a complex enterprise deal recently or ever. That can create blind spots when designing plays or training. But the AI, by analyzing thousands of successful interactions, can essentially surface the playbook of every single quota crusher on your team. That helps everyone align on what actually works, driving training needs that directly impact business outcomes. The Sales Enablement Collective's 2024 report found, 39% of enablement teams struggle with a lack of formal internal alignment on what enablement is or does. Seems like a concrete way to build that alignment around data. But how does the AI actually learn those playbooks? Is it just finding common stuff, or is it smarter than that?
It's generally smarter than just finding common themes, yeah. It analyzes the sequence of actions, right? The content used at specific stages, the buyer's responses, engagement levels, and then connects that sequence to the final outcome, win or loss. So it can identify the causal steps, or at least the highly correlated steps that lead to success. It's effectively reverse engineering the winning formula from your best reps and making those patterns visible and hopefully repeatable for everyone else.
That brings up a related point about bias, though. We all have our assumptions about what works.
Exactly. Which leads to the third point. It helps reduce noise and individual bias in really important decisions. You might think that big Q3 content refresh you did drove better win rates. Your gut tells you it did. But correlation isn't causation, right? Maybe win rates went up for other reasons entirely. AI helps you test for incrementality. You can ask, did quota attainment actually improve specifically because reps increased their usage of that new pitch deck? Isolating that one factor. Forrester's 2024 survey highlighted that poor data quality and just accessing data are still huge, persistent challenges. AI directly tackles the accessibility part and can even help highlight the quality issues by providing clarity where there was just noise before.
But speaking of data quality, how crucial is the quality of the underlying data, of the sales data, content data, training data, for these AI assistants to actually work well? Is it a garbage in, garbage out situation?
That's a really, really astute question. Look, while AI is surprisingly good at finding signals even in messy data, the old saying, garbage in, garbage out, absolutely still applies. The better your data quality, the cleaner it is, the more consistent, the more comprehensive, the more precise and reliable your AI-generated insights will be, period. So it's definitely not a free pass on data hygiene. You still need good data governance. But the flip side is, The AI can sometimes help you find the garbage. It can highlight inconsistencies or gaps in your data that you weren't even aware of, sort of acting like an auditor as it works.
Okay, that makes sense. And finally, you touch on this. It empowers the entire team to actually use real data. Well, the stats say maybe 25% of enablement teams use AI regularly now, and another 55% use it occasionally. Most organizations still treat deep data analysis as this specialized skill locked away with analysts. Plain language AI kind of democratizes that access. So sales leaders can ask about coaching correlations, marketing leaders can query content gaps, enablement leaders track training impact, all without filing help desk tickets. It really transforms teams from being just data consumers into being data explorers. That feels like a massive cultural shift.
It really is. Data explorers, I like that.
So, okay, people are listening, they're excited, they're ready to dive in. How do they get the most meaningful insights out of these tools? What's maybe the biggest mistake people make when they first start using them, besides expecting magic?
Yeah, the biggest mistake is probably treating it like Google, just typing in keywords instead of asking real questions. So the first tip, and this is crucial, ask outcome-focused questions. Instead of just asking how many people completed the onboarding training, which is just compliance tracking, ask which reps completed onboarding training and hit their first quota within 90 days. See the difference. The first tells you about activity. The second starts to reveal what actually drives performance. The source material noted that while, something like 72% of organizations are using AI somewhere now, the ones getting real value, they're the ones asking actual business questions, not just technical data queries.
Right, focus on the why and the so what. And that leads right into the second tip, which sounds like add more filters and context. Don't just ask a vague question. Layer things in. Time filters like in the last 90 days. Segment filters like among our enterprise reps versus SMB. Persona filters maybe for prospects in the financial services industry. Or product filters related to our XYZ product line. Shoo, the more precise your question, the more precise and useful the answer is likely to be.
Exactly. And this connects to some BCG research showing that 74%, nearly 3/4 of companies, struggle to really scale the value they get from AI. Why? Often because they aren't asking those rich contextual questions. Which brings us to the third tip, and maybe the most critical one. Layer your questions. Follow up. Don't just stop at the first answer you get. Start with, say, what content has the highest engagement? Okay, interesting. Then follow up. Okay, of that high engagement content, which pieces show up most often in our closed-won deals? Getting warmer. And then, okay, what seems to be the optimal timing for sharing these specific high-converting assets during the sales cycle? Now you're getting strategic. Most teams, honestly, they stop at that first layer and they miss the really game-changing insights hidden deeper down. McKinsey research found something similar. 71% of organizations are using generative AI, but the real leaders. They're the ones who've learned how to actually have conversations with their data back and forth. Layering questions. Having conversations with data, that's a powerful way to think about it. Wow, what a deep dive this has been. We've really seen how enablement analytics, AI, is making insights so much more accessible, moving us beyond those static, often frustrating dashboards into a world where you can just ask your data the questions that really matter. It genuinely feels like this is democratizing data access in a way that we've frankly only dreamed about until recently.
Absolutely. If you can ask it, you can know it, or at least get much closer to knowing it. Your data, your organization's data, has always held the answers to what truly drives performance. The patterns were always there, hidden. The exciting part is that now, with these new AI assistants, you finally have the translator, you have the detective, you have the strategic advisor, kind of all rolled into one, ready to unlock those insights that were previously buried. It's really about shifting data from being a burden or something intimidating to being your most powerful ally.
From data burden to data ally. Love that. So as you're listening and reflecting on everything we've talked about today, here's a final thought. What's the one question you would ask your data right now if you knew you'd get an instant, clear, and truly actionable answer? We really encourage you to think about that and how this shift could empower your team, your whole organization maybe, to become genuine data explorers, not just passive data consumers.